Welcome to my channel. My name is Tolu. I'm a Christian dating coach and I specialize in showing single Christian women how to go from single to married in a year. Now, if you want to work with me one-on-one to learn how to start dating men you can actually marry and get into the right relationship, then make sure to click the link in my bio and first tab to apply to work with me one-on-one. So today, I just want to talk about dating men you don't find attractive. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from. I'm curious. Just drop your location in the comments. I'm curious. But I want to talk about dating men you don't find attractive. So here's the thing. You're not going to find it simple to date and easy to date if you keep dating men you don't find attractive. It's going to be frustrating for you. It's going to feel like you're settling. It's going to feel like you are constantly making yourself available to men that you don't find attractive, and it's going to feel more unattainable for you to actually meet the kind of man you want because you're entertaining men that you aren't attracted to. So part of the work I like to do with my clients is just to clarify exactly what it is you're looking for in a guy. You know how when you're going to the grocery store, you have like a list of things you want to get, and because you have that list, you move through the grocery store faster, you find it easier to locate your items, you enjoy your shopping experience more because you've itemized exactly what you're looking for. The problem is, have you ever gone to the grocery store when you're hungry and you don't have a list? You will find that you start getting all these things you don't need. You probably spend more time in the grocery store. It feels like a frustrating experience. The whole process is more cumbersome. This second example is how a lot of you are dating, which is why you are picking the wrong men. It's also why you find yourself in the wrong relationships. It's why you keep attracting men that aren't attracted to you. It's also why you find it difficult to actually find what you're looking for in a guy. It's because you're dating with hunger. To kind of stick with that analogy, and when I say dating with hunger, I mean you are dating out of fear, out of anxiety, out of concern that what you want isn't actually available to you. The problem with that process is you get exactly that. You don't meet men you find attractive. Men that you do find attractive aren't attracted to you. You're not meeting enough men you're not meeting enough men in a certain period of time to be able to propel you to meet the right man. So you want to stop dating men you don't find attractive. That's the first thing you want to start doing so that you can make it simpler for you to be available to the kind of man that you want. And when I work with my clients one-on-one, like I was saying, I like to help them create a hobby list. So a hobby list is basically the list of qualities you want in a partner. I help my clients to fine-tune that list. Mind you, not everyone will have every single thing on the list because no one is perfect, but I help them to kind of understand exactly what it is that's non-negotiable for them and what's a good point of negotiation. Just like if you go to the grocery store, you may want a certain brand of eggs, but that brand isn't available, but maybe another brand is available, right? So at least that gives you direction to face the right options. So I help them to create this hobby list, and a hobby list it's not just, write a list of qualities you want in a man. No, it's more specific than that. It's a very strategic list to help you to understand what exactly it is that you're looking for, first of all, how to be able to recognize it, what you need to do differently to position yourself to attract those kinds of men into your life. And I use it with my clients as a tracker to help them to know exactly how close they are to meeting their husband, okay? Because the more they start to attract men that match what is on their list, the closer they get to meeting their partner. So that's what I mean by propelling you to meet your husband, because you're literally facing the right direction. Now, a lot of you, when you're dating men you don't find attractive, you're doing the complete opposite. You're going the wrong way. You're entertaining the wrong options. You're making yourself available to the wrong situations and circumstances. And that's why dating feels frustrating, especially when you are dating as a woman in her 30s, in her 40s, in her 50s, when you have gone through the entire process of your 20s and you thought, maybe you'll be married by now. You thought your first marriage would have worked. You thought that you'll be raising your child with the father, but life just didn't happen the way you expected. You just never got into a healthy relationship, or you stayed in the wrong relationship for too long. It becomes harder and harder for you to actually imagine and visualize what it looks like to attract an eligible single Christian man, and that works against you. A hobby list is basically just made up of qualities that you want in a guy. But what I do, so there's no specific, because I'm seeing a question about an example of something on the hobby list. For example, it could be, you have your list saying you want a Christian man, you want somebody that's financially stable. Those are things that can go on your hobby list. But how I qualify with my clients looks very different, because what financial stability looks like for you may be very different from what it looks like for someone else. How you qualify it in terms of your own lifestyle and your experiences will be very different from someone else. So that's what I mean by the hobby list is very specific to you and your process to meeting your husband. And what I help my clients do is to use that as a sort of mirror. That, okay, this is the stage you're at in your process of actually meeting your husband, because that way we can track the kind of men you're attracting, the quality of men you're making yourself available to based on this list that is not influenced by your feelings, but is purely based on fact and discernment. It's based on data and discernment. Data in terms of what exactly it is you're attracted to, discernment in terms of what the Lord has given you revelation on desiring in a partner. So it's important that when you're using that list, it helps you to clean up your dating process. And this is how I help my clients to be able to start dating men that they find attractive. It's how I help them to be able to qualify the quality of men that they're attracting, so that we can make sure that, okay, you're facing the right direction. Because maybe, for example, you find that, oh, I tend to attract men that aren't financially stable. That means that we need to focus on why that is happening. And when we work together one-on-one, my work is to really make sure you're cleaning up your dating process to make sure that that pattern stops repeating itself. Because once we clean that up and you start attracting financially stable men, it's likely that other things on your list will also start to show up as well. So, that's how important the hobby list is. And it's one of the key tools that I use with my clients to be able to help them to make sure that they're only dating men they find attractive. And, the thing about dating men that you don't find attractive is you're going to find it more and more difficult to believe you're going to get married. Okay. And the reason for this is you're going to be constantly confronted with thoughts that are filled with doubt. You're doubting your attraction for that man. You're doubting that this is something that you actually want. You're doubting if marriage can happen to you. So dating men you don't find attractive actually increases your doubt as to the kind of marriage you want and the dreams that you actually aspire to have with your partner. So that's why I don't even allow my clients to enter relationships, entertain men that they aren't attracted to. Another thing that I will mention, and if you have any questions for me, drop it in the question box. But another thing that I like to work with clients on one-on-one when it comes to dating men they do find attractive is looking at their current baseline. So when I say a dating baseline, it basically means the frequency with which you currently attract men and the flow. Frequency means, over the last 3 months, how many men have you attracted? Flow means how often do you attract those men? So maybe over the last 3 months, you've attracted 3 men, but the flow was one every single month, or the flow was 3 in 1 month. For every single client, it looks different. But why I like to track your baseline is to be able to know where your current dating experience is at. So I've discovered that if, for example, you're not attracting any men at all, it makes sense that you will think that there are no men that are available for a serious relationship. Why? Because you just haven't seen any men that are in a position to even influence that idea in your head. Or, if I find that, okay, you're just coming out of a relationship that was tumultuous and you were there for a long time, I find that, okay, it makes sense that you're now struggling to trust men's intentions, because guess what? You're just coming out of a relationship you thought will end in marriage, and it turns out that he cheated on you, or he wasted your time, or he just abused your financial and emotional resources. So the reason I like working with a dating baseline is to be able to see how available are you for the kind of relationship you actually want. Because part of the reason why you're dating men you don't find attractive is because you don't even think that's an option that's available to you. And as a result, you make yourself available to men that are unavailable for the kind of commitment you want. And here's something I will say, because I was telling this to one of my clients. It's not every man you consider should be a man that you like. So what I mean by that is, just because you like him doesn't mean you should enter a relationship with him. And usually I see this with women that aren't used to finding men that approach them attractive. So when you now find a guy that is attractive, giving you time and attention, you automatically assume that, oh, this is somebody I can enter a relationship with. Meanwhile, you should only ever give your time and attention to men you do find attractive. It's just the bare minimum. So what I like to do with my clients one-on-one is this is why the hobby list is so important in my program, to be able to help my clients to define tangibly what does it actually look like for you to find someone attractive. Because when you do that, it's easier for you to be able to know why you're attracted to someone. So it's not enough to say, oh, I like him. Now you will know, I like him because he's financially stable. I like him because he's eloquent. I like him because he takes care of his body. So that way your feelings are properly directed towards the right direction. In other words, your feelings, you know why you have feelings for him. You're not assuming you have feelings for him because he's your husband. You're not assuming you have feelings for him because you're falling in love with him. You know, I have feelings for this man because he shares my values on fitness, he shares my values on faith, he shares my values on financial stability, and so on and so forth. So the hobby list really also helps to guide the way you process your emotions and your feelings. And it also helps you to understand, okay, I don't like this man because he's not tall enough, because he's not as eloquent as I would like, because he doesn't share the same values that I have when it comes to financial management, and so on and so forth. And that way you can make the best decisions as you date. So that's how, like, my clients are able to choose the right man. Because by the time they're getting into a relationship, it's highly probable that that person is going to be their partner because they've done all the work before reaching that point. So that's why, when you're dating, the very bare minimum should be men that you find attractive, men that you like. Because if you're already starting from a position of not liking him, not finding him attractive, you're going to find it very difficult to even get to the point of wanting to commit to him with complete and clear conviction. And I've seen this a lot, just in my work as a dating coach. I've just seen a lot of women make decisions based on the barest of minimum. Like, oh, let me just marry him because he's financially stable, even though I'm not attracted to him, forgetting that marriage is a covenant. If you're entering a marriage with this person, that means that you're committing to them for life. You're going to be intimate with them. You're going to have kids together. You're going to be spending majority of your time together. At the barest minimum, you have to like that person. So it's important that when you're dating, whether you're in your 30s, you're in your 40s, you're in your 50s, it doesn't matter. They're always men. But part of the reason why you're struggling to see these men is because you're not even making yourself available to them. So the work I like to do with my clients at the initial stage is to make sure that we are only entertaining men that you find attractive, and we are increasing opportunities for you to be visible to the kind of men you find attractive. So that way you just naturally create opportunity for your husband to come into your life. So that way you also allow yourself to align with the vision of marriage that God has called you into, instead of constantly fighting what isn't for you. Like, a lot of you, when you're in the wrong relationships, you're fighting these thoughts sometimes for years that this is the wrong man for you. And you don't have to do any of that, which is why your dating experience is frustrating and you're not enjoying it. Dating should be freeing. It should be an experience that you find fun. It should be a way in which you learn about yourself and learn about the needs that you have when it comes to a partner, and giving men the opportunity to show you that they're in a position to provide you with that level of security that you desire from a spiritual, emotional, and physical standpoint. But what I've discovered is a lot of Christian women are just compromising way too early in the process of dating, and as a result you find that you enter into situations where you don't even feel you don't feel complete because you've given so much up in terms of compromise at the early stage of the dating process. So when we work together one-on-one, the initial point we start from is looking at what patterns are you currently repeating that is making it more and more and more difficult for you to meet the kind of men you want? What habits are you entertaining that is constantly attracting the wrong men to you and making you available to the wrong men? And what exactly needs to be removed and changed in your dating process and tweaked so that we can make sure that you're available and visible to men that you can date in a healthy way that will lead you to marriage? Another thing I will say is dating should be based on quality, not quantity. So a lot of my clients that have gotten into relationships, gotten married, entered into a commitment with a man they were seeing, it didn't take that long. And when I say it didn't take that long, I mean they get into those relationships in 90 days, they are married within a year. And just looking at the broad scope of men that they have entertained and gone on dates with prior to meeting their husbands, it's not up to, they've gone on maybe max in total, including their husband, 10 dates. So what I mean by that is it takes less than 10 dates in total for you to be able to meet the right man for you. So in other words, it takes less than 10 dates in a space of time. If you're going on dates constantly, if it's based on quality and not quantity, the dating experience in itself, when I say dating, I mean going on dates, letting men take you out, letting men take you to dinner, take you to nice experiences, and so on and so forth. That is also something you qualify. So, in less than 10 dates of that kind of experience, you should be able to meet your person. And that's literally how I've helped my clients, because just because a guy asks you out doesn't mean you're going on a date. I've taught and I've coached my clients on really understanding the purpose of a date. And just generally speaking, the purpose of a date is to see if there's a potential possibility of intimacy between you and that person. You don't just go on a date because a guy asked you for a date. If you're not attracted to him, there's no reason why you should be going on a date with him. If you have nothing in common, there's no reason why you should be going on that date. Because when you're dating to marry, that means that you're only exploring options to date men you can marry. So if you already know that isn't somebody that you even find attractive, that automatically means that that isn't somebody you can marry. So, it's really important to look at dating from a quality experience as opposed to a quantity experience, because a lot of you're too focused on quantity. You're focused on the fact that, I keep going to all these places. I went to 5 events last month. I've spoken to 10 men this week or whatever. And it hasn't, I've gone on 5 dates in the last 6 months in the last 2 months, and it hasn't amounted to anything. That means that your problem is the quality of experiences you're having. Quality in terms of who are the men you're going on dates with. Quality in terms of where are the places you're making yourself visible, and how are you creating visibility in those spaces. Attending one space, maybe you attended, a networking event as a participant, is very different from attending it as a panelist. And I give that example because I want you to understand both people are in the same room, but they are occupying very different positions of visibility. So taking that example to just the general context of running errands, going to the gym, going for a walk, you want to be the panelist. You want to be the one that naturally draws attention, that naturally creates visibility simply by your presence. And part of the work I do with my clients is helping them to increase their level of visibility simply by their presence, because that would just naturally increase the opportunities for you to have quality connections with men. Because when you raise your energy, so to speak, it's easier and faster for you to connect with men that are actually also operating on that level of frequency, in terms of that level of self-awareness and that level of intentionality in terms of the way they connect with people. But if you're the kind of person that just goes to spaces, you're in, out, you don't really make an impression, then you're just not going to meet anyone. It doesn't matter if you go to 10 places in 1 week. You just won't meet anyone. I like to focus on a quality-based approach. So I like to make sure that my clients, if we're going to certain spaces, we have a strategy around how we're going to create visibility in those spaces to maximize opportunities to actually make valuable connections. Because you're just going to marry one man, and you're going to commit to one marriage. So it's important for you to focus on quality, not quantity. And that is how you want to start dating. So if you're dating men you don't find attractive, you're already doing this the wrong way, because it means that you're entertaining options that shouldn't even be on the table at all. So, part of the work that I like to do one-on-one is in terms of making sure you're dating men you do find attractive. Let's work on your visibility. Let's work on, by visibility, I mean just how men perceive you and how you create opportunities for men to approach you. Let's work on how you make yourself available to the kind and quality and caliber of men that you actually want to connect with. And let's create opportunities for you to be going on quality dates as opposed to quantity. Like, I like to focus on quality, so that if you are stepping out for a date, it's with somebody that you do find attractive. It's with somebody that you do have a connection with. It's with someone that you can learn something from. And it's with somebody that is going to propel you in the right direction to meet your husband. So even if he isn't your husband, he is bringing you closer to meeting your husband, because he has qualities that are going to be that are also going to be similar in how your husband presents himself. I even remember one of my clients saying, because I encourage them to go on dates with multiple men at the same time. I do not believe in just focusing on one man at a time. If you meet, I don't know, Tunde today, what's his name? Bola or Bode, whatever you want to call him, tomorrow, John next week, you are allowed to explore all those options as long as they're quality options and there are men that you do find attractive and you are interested in getting to know them more. You don't say because you met Tunde today, you are not going to talk to Bode and you're not going to have a conversation with John. That doesn't make sense because you're still single and you're meant to be, dating to gather data as it pertains to the kind of partner that you want. So, I encourage my clients to create capacity. One of the reasons why you find it difficult to talk to multiple men at the same time is because you don't know how to create the capacity to do that in terms of being able to have conversations with different men without feeling like you are being drawn into those conversations. So I call it casual intimacy, where you are able to have conversations that create an intimate connection without getting attached, so that you are able to actually date and get to know that person and go on dates with them with your eyes wide open. Because some of you, once you like a guy, your senses leave your body and you don't know how to pay attention to certain patterns and you don't know how to properly qualify, his level of interest to see if it matches yours. And that's very important to know how to do, because it will naturally increase your value to men, and it will make you more visible in a valuable way to men. So that's how I help my clients to understand how to lead with their value. And back to what I was saying about my client, that kind of came to mind. She was sharing with me how, she met her husband at a time when she was talking to other men as well. So it's not like she met him and she stopped talking to other men. No, she met him as she was talking to other men. Why? Because I show you how to be able to talk to multiple men that you find attractive. You only have that problem if all the other options are men you're not attracted to. So you just naturally gravitate to the one that you find attractive. And the problem with that is sometimes the connection is a bit too premature for that level of concentration. So you want to pace yourself in terms of how you're building a connection with that person, how you're creating communication opportunities, how you're creating the opportunity to get to know them more intimately by pacing the way in which you make yourself available. And you can only learn to do that if you're naturally I'm trying to think of the right word here. If you're naturally inclined to make yourself only available to men you find attractive anyway. But a lot of you, because you're not even used to that, if you see one guy that you think is attractive, you throw all your decorum out the window, you make yourself too available, you give too much, you get too attached, and it becomes very difficult for you to actually get to know the person. And, it also gives off the wrong vibe, for lack of a better way of putting it, to the men that you are getting to know. So it's important that part of the reason why I'm an advocate for learning to talk to multiple men at the same time is so that you learn how to emotionally regulate yourself. In other words, you learn how to create capacity to connect with men without compromising your boundaries, without compromising your standards, without compromising yourself in the process, because that just naturally makes you more attractive. And it also creates the space for men to pursue you very intentionally. And it creates the opportunity for you to see how he pursues you without getting, compromised in the process. So you can't do any of that if you're dating men you don't find attractive. It's just not possible, because the same emotions won't be involved. The same level of concentration won't be involved. You are not the same person when you are dating men you don't find attractive as you are when you're dating men you do find attractive. It's kind of like if you don't like cooking, but you love cleaning. You are not the same person when you're cooking as when you're cleaning, because you enjoy cleaning. When you're cleaning, you're probably in a bubbly mood. You're probably humming to yourself, but because you don't like cooking, you probably, find it cumbersome. You're not as happy. You're just doing it because you have to do it. Those are two completely different personalities. But a lot of you're dating men you don't find attractive, and as a result, you are not being the person that is going to attract your husband. Does that make sense? So that's why it's really important to only date men you find attractive, and that's why I set that standard for my clients and also show them how to create those opportunities, because part of the reason why some of you do this is you just don't know how to find men. You don't know how to find men that you do find attractive. So part of my process in one-on-one coaching is showing you how to optimize your routine to create the opportunities for you to naturally meet men that you do find attractive. Doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter your routine or your career path or whatever it is. There is an opportunity that you are not currently taking advantage of to meet men that you do find attractive. And that's part of the work that we do at the initial stage of my one-on-one program, so that you know that you are actually creating visibility for the kind of men you want. And of course, as part of my process, I've helped my clients to unlearn these things that I'm telling you, which is unlearn giving space to men that you are not attracted to, because a lot of women do that. It's not something I advocate for. In fact, and I think it's something to do with how the messaging has been broadcast by the church, in terms of making you think that you're being too picky, or making you think that you're asking for too much, which is also not true. I remember one of my other clients that is getting married now, she was sharing with me how everyone told her she was being picky, and everyone told her that she was asking for too much. But what I focused on instead with her is helping her to position herself for the kind of man that she actually wanted. And I remember her sharing with me that her fiance is literally like her twin. They share so many things in common, the conversations, and the connection, and it just makes sense for them to get married. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Physical attraction, it's not negotiable. It's one of the key ways in which it's one of the fastest ways actually that you're going to know if this is somebody you could potentially see a future with. It's not the only way, but it's one of the fastest ways to know, because everything you see comes through sight first, in terms of getting to know a person, and then you build on that with emotional attraction, and then you build on that with spiritual attraction, and so on and so forth. Spiritual attraction is obviously the deepest form of awareness, but physical attraction is usually what you will see first. And it's important not to ignore that, because sometimes, like I say to my clients, I'll say to you guys as well, sometimes God will speak through your flesh. So what I mean by that is, he will confirm through your flesh, not through a dream, not through a vision, that this is somebody that is good for you or not. So kind of like in Genesis, Adam said to Eve, this is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. So it's not only that it was a connection that was deep in his soul, it was something that was recognized through his flesh. So it's important for you not to discount that part of who you are. Because, being a dating coach for 10 years now, I've seen women make that mistake and regret it. Enter marriages that they knew they were not attracted to their partner, have entire families with men that they still are not attracted to. And you just don't want to do that, because that's not actually what God has for you. God has more for you, and it is available to you. So it's important that you're dating in alignment with that vision that he has given you, but a lot of you just don't know how to do it. So that's why inside my one-on-one program, my focus is on showing you your own dating path, as I like to call it. In other words, what does your own path to marriage actually look like? What does it look like for you to meet men in your routine? What does it look like for you to come into contact and have conversations with men you do find attractive, that do share your values, men that are ready to take you on dates and are ready to treat you with respect? What does that look like in your day-to-day lifestyle? Because that is exactly how it's going to look like when you meet your husband. Your husband is going to come into your he's going to come into your life through your routine. I've had clients that have met their spouses through friends, at work, online. There's so many ways that this man can come into your life, but he can only come in if you create availability for it. In fact, one of my clients, because she had such a demanding schedule, I decided to help her set up visibility online, because I told her the reality is your day-to-day routine is so occupied by your professional life that even when you're coming into contact with men, you're not presenting as a woman that they want to get to know intimately, because your professional life has taken up so much space in how you navigate your day-to-day activities. So we need to create the visual of who you are intimately online. And that's exactly how she met her husband. Come to find out that they also moved in similar circles on a professional level, but they just never interacted in that space. So I share that to say that it's important that you're creating visibility in a way that shows you as a wife, not as not as Tola the realtor or Kate the lawyer and so on and so forth, but Tola the wife, Kate the wife. That's the visual that you want to be creating and you want to be connecting with as you're engaging with men. You can't do that when you're dating men you don't find attractive. It's just not possible, because who they are even seeing is not who you really are. Because guess what? You're not attracted to them, so you're not gonna act in a way as that you will act as a woman that is genuinely interested in a man that she wants to get to know. It's kind of like when a guy is not interested in you, and even though he's talking to you and everything, your intuition will tell you he's not that into you, something is off here. It's the same way that man will be picking it up. But it's so funny because on his end, he may just think that he needs to get to know you more, or maybe, you know, he needs to prove himself more. But you and I know it's just that you're not attracted to him. Okay. So, you know, that's basically what I wanted to share. If you have any questions, drop it in the question box for me. And if you are a 30-plus Christian single woman that has a demanding career, you're not sure how to navigate the dating scene, but you do desire to get married within a 12-month timeline, then apply to work with me one-on-one. The link is in my bio and first tab. We work together for 6 months to target you getting married in a year. And the work that we do in those 6 months is to completely change your entire dating process. Like I said, at the initial stage of my programs, I focus on what are the opportunities you're creating to be visible for the kind of men you want? How can you create the opportunity to connect with multiple men that you do find attractive? And how can you start using that to create the level of value that will naturally make you attractive to your husband so he pursues you for marriage? So that 6-month timeline, we're going to achieve all of that. You work with me on one-on-one call sessions every week, and you also have WhatsApp support with me every single day. So that's how we'll be working together for 6 months to get you on track for marriage within a year. Okay. So, you know, in summary, if you have any questions, just drop it in the question box. But in summary, the marriage you want is not possible with men you don't find attractive. It's just not. And that's why I went into detail, you know, in terms of the personality you're putting forward is not even who you truly are when you find a guy attractive, when you're talking to someone you don't find attractive. You really want to focus on dating based on quality, not quantity, because a lot of you, sometimes your entertainment you don't find attractive because you get impatient. Meanwhile, what actually just needs to happen is you need to change your entire process. It's like if you say, oh, you know, I hate cooking in the evenings, then you just need to change the time you cook. Maybe start cooking in the morning, maybe start cooking in the weekends, maybe outsource cooking. The problem itself is not the cooking. It's the way in which you're doing it. Same thing with dating. Dating is not a problem. Dating is meant to be fun. It's meant to be a process of self-discovery. It's meant to show you how to connect with your husband. That's literally the point of dating to marry. It's literally just the path to connect to your husband. So it shouldn't be a cumbersome process. It shouldn't feel frustrating. And part of the work I like to do with my clients is just finding their own pace in the dating process, like regardless of their schedules, because I work with men that are working very busy schedules, have different routines, you know, maybe single moms or demanding careers or managing projects or traveling all the time. It doesn't matter. Dating can fit your routine. You just need to find your own routine for it to fit. And the truth is that routine that works for you is what is actually going to make it simpler for your husband to meet you, because your husband is going to live a similar lifestyle, kind of like the client I explained that turns out, even though she met her husband online, they occupied the same spaces professionally. What I mean is they were in the same industry, they had the same network, but they just never met in that capacity. But she met him through her routine in terms of how she was using the online dating space based on my strategy and recommendation. So that's exactly what you want to do. You just need to discover a routine that works for you, that you can accommodate consistently. I'm not a fan of doing things that you cannot keep up with, because there's just no point. I like to make sure my clients are applying strategies that feel natural, that feel organic, and that they can keep up with, because that will just create the consistency that is required for them to be able to have the opportunity to meet men they find attractive and eventually their husband that they can commit to maritally. But yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to share today. If you're ready to work with me one-on-one to go from single to married in a year, then make sure to click the link in my bio and first tab to apply. Once you're applied and you're the right fit, we'll have a conversation and we'll be able to get started on your own dating process to lead you to the point of marriage. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Take care. Bye.